go. What's up, dude?
Hey man.
Hey, we got Johnny Hopson in the house.
Hi.
Good to see you.
Yeah, you too, man.
Um,
Miss being
can
able to hang in person all the time.
yeah, right. I miss being able to chum around on the open road, really,
Yeah.
and in Nashville too. It's great to see you. Congrats right off the bat on Silverdays, which just came out like on Friday.
Yeah, on Friday. Yeah. Thanks, man.
Yeah, that was I didn't know it was going to be coming out so soon. You might have even told me the date once before, but I felt like y'all sprung it on us. All of a sudden, it
Um,
was here.
yeah, well, it took a while for us to like decide when we actually wanted to put it out because that the process was really like it was good, but and we were like thinking about doing the single thing but then, especially with everything going on, we felt like it would be better just to not make it so much about us and be like, hey, art helps us to work through things, and we have this thing that we made, so here it all is at once. Do what you will with it. Like, hope it brings you some happiness, and then step back.
Huh. Oh, interesting. So that's what was your decision behind releasing it more as a cohesive work besides like doing the singles game and like dropping it slowly.
Yeah, well, we didn't really feel like it was our place right now to be like, here's a single that we're gonna let sit for a couple months, and then here's another one, and it's only 13 minutes of music too, so we would have put out like 3/4 of the EP before
Mm-hmm.
releasing the whole thing, and then people listen to the whole thing, and it's just a recording of them doing dishes and like crickets. That's all that I haven't heard.
Yeah,
so
right.
um, so instead of doing that, we just did like the video, and then we're out. Like, hope you dig it, sort of thing. And people
Yeah,
have been really, really kind and sweet, and it's like given us a little confidence boost, I guess, or reaffirmation maybe, because people really seem to enjoy it, and that makes us feel good.
totally. Yeah, everybody has been loving it, and it's awesome to see everyone lifting it up. Like, I get on Instagram and people from all these different cities that I know are all just like listening to Silver Days. And it's like
Yeah,
it's like it is like really encouraging, especially just putting out music can be really an affirming thing to do, especially when you get kind of when you haven't done it in a while and you get kind of bogged down and you put something out and people are like, yeah, this sounds good. You're like, oh yeah, that thank you.
yeah.
I
I
can
mean,
do
you're
more
so
of that.
close to it. You fit like you listen to it so many times over and over again, it starts to sound terrible, and you're like,
Yeah.
man, like maybe we shouldn't even put this out. It sounds so bad to me now, or it's I don't know if it's ever gotten that bad where I'm like, I can't put this out. Then you put it out and you listen to it in a new context, like the day it came out. Bryce and I streamed it, and we were like, nice, that feels good.
Yeah, right. I remember with Friends, I felt like there was a time when I thought you might not put that album out. You got really like hard into like the mixing process with that one. I feel like if I'm remembering correctly.
Yeah, I think that's just my personality, and a lot of the Friends mixes I was trying to do like totally on my own, like in the basement of my parents' house, and I don't know, mixing the band's music by myself didn't really work as well for me. But with Silver Days, like we recorded it and mixed and mastered it all ourselves at home, and that was when me and Bryce and Noah were all living together, and mixing was so much fun, man. Like none of us got exhausted on it. Like we all kept each other going, and we would take a break and go get street tacos or something. And
Yeah.
it was way more rewarding because we kind of had each other to be like, hey, like that sounds awesome. Let's move on, and then come back to it later if we have to, or feel like we have to. And normally we wouldn't even remember what it was, and we'd just be like, sounds great.
Yeah, right. If you can't remember what it was, then it's probably not that big a deal, I guess.
Yeah, I think it's just, especially the last year, has been me realizing like how uh, maybe how like insecure I can get when I'm working totally on my own. Maybe which is why I get bogged down on a lot of things, and how encouraging it is to have such good friends who are really great artists and creative people to trust and work with.
Yeah,
Pushes
totally.
the process along so much faster.
And you've got an amazing support system and friends and an amazing family that I've like been so blessed to be around. You know, when we'll record or practice, especially practicing for Space Prom the last 2 years, where we've spent a week at the Hopson household, just like, and then of course, the band itself is like, y'all are just such a tight knit group. It's so special. Um, I think I can hear. Is someone playing in the background, or is that a record? It sounds like
I
Noah
think
Pope or Bryce Dubray.
I think my roommate Ben is playing some guitar in his room.
Oh,
Sounds good.
cool.
Yeah.
Ben, who plays a guitar solo on record number 1, Stevie B by Future
Yeah.
Crib. Hey, there he is.
There he is.
You can see me.
Yeah.
Yeah, we can see you. I guess he can't hear me.
Do a little podcast.
What up, dude?
Live long
Wait,
and
can you
prosper.
do this? Like swap them?
I don't think so.
Oh.
No.
I don't know.
So like
Yeah,
you
maybe.
go one hand with this and then one hand with this, and then you have to swap them.
Oh, you start the opposite way.
Yeah,
No.
it's like a mind game.
I bet I could do it if I worked at it for like
It's
15 minutes.
It's very
Whenever I'm
frustrating.
bored in class, I'll just do that. Like,
I cannot
so-
even get halfway. That was a cool surprise cameo. To name the rest of the band, you got Noah Pope, Bryce Dubray, you got Julia Anderson, and George Rezik. Is that how you say his last name?
Yeah.
Cool. George is George in Nashville right now, or is he in Chicago?
He's in Chicago. He's been there for a while, and he probably will be there until the winter, or at least for the next month or two.
Okay. Is he done with Belmont?
He's got a year left. Bryce and I have a semester left. We'll be done in November, which is
Cool.
awesome.
Yeah, that is awesome. Wow, that's awesome. And then Julia is living in Chattanooga currently, and going to UTC for 1 more year, 2 more years.
Yeah, one more year. Yeah, and she loves it there. She's like, it's totally home base for her.
Yeah. So with the band, I know a little bit of this, but for people who don't know, and also I still feel like I could have some of the holes filled in. When I first met you, and we were hanging out really at Freeze Fest 3 is where we started to become pretty good friends, I feel like.
Yeah.
That's where Stevie B had just come out pretty recently. I believe. I don't know the exact. It was, let's say, April 2017.
Yeah, I think it was like the 17th. I remember that because it might have been the first day of Freeze Fest, or
Yeah, I
maybe
think
the day
so.
before or something like that.
Wow, that's crazy. And when you put out that album, because also at Freeze Fest 3, Nath Noise performed night 1. Y'all closed it out, which was, for those who don't know about that band, I talked about it a little bit with Bryce on the podcast, and y'all's high school band, which, by the way, after we filmed that, got to watch a little bit of y'all live on Instagram. Y'all were playing.
Oh yeah, we got together to hang out and played those songs. And
Yeah,
like, well, maybe 2 or 3 people want to see.
Dude, I'm sure some people's night were made. That was really cool. But when you put out Stevie B, which is an amazing record.
Thank you.
I love that record so much, dude. That was a pretty much solo endeavor. And I mean, aside from it, one guitar from Ben and a vocal harmony from Julia. I mean, you recorded and played every instrument of that album, which is incredible. When along the way did you decide to like make Future Crib a collaborative project? And was it a solo project originally because you had Nath Noise, so it was like a side project? Or I guess I just don't really know the origin behind the project either.
Yeah, I think with I think with NAF Noise, like we were working on new music and stuff, but the school year, it was like senior year of high school and everybody was getting really busy. And Bryce and Spencer had marching band, which took up 90% of their time, which is awesome. Like they really like doing it and they're really good at it. So, I was always try to be encouraging, but for me, like I didn't have any like extracurriculars that I was super involved in. So I would go home and just like have this compulsion to make stuff and none of them were around to be around and do it together. And I didn't really want to like do all the NAF Noise stuff myself because I didn't feel like that was fair to them. And at the same time, I was getting really into, I guess I was just listening to a lot of Mac DeMarco and like Two and Salad Days and read about him recording on 8-track. Like he had a Fostex A8 that he used, just like old tape. And I was really wanting to get a tape machine. So I was like, I asked like one of my teachers was like, oh, my dad, I think he has an 8-track in his attic. I could ask him and see if he could get it for you. But, none of that ever happened. So when I was looking to buy one, I had 2 on eBay that I was looking at. They were both Tascam 48s because I knew that was probably the machine I wanted. And I was like, okay, this is the one I want. And I went and bid on it or like made an offer. And the dude got back to me and I was like, oh, that's the wrong one. I didn't mean to do that. And messaged a dude and was like, hey, I'm so sorry. Like totally meant to bid on this other machine, same model. And he was like, you're coming to get this. Like you're paying me and coming to get it. So me and Ben and my brother Joey drove to like, I guess Chattanooga, but he met us from Ottawa and I bought it for $600, brought it home. My dad and I learned a lot about it and fixed a couple of things that were wrong with it.
Wait,
and,
what? So wait,
yeah.
he told you you're buying this and you were like, okay.
Yeah, I mean, the difference wasn't that big. Like, and I actually paid a little less money, but like 1 or 2 things were wrong with it. But we ended up fixing it for pretty cheap, so it was a good deal. And it had this rack with it that's like worth a lot of money now. So
Cool.
It was like a blessing in disguise, I guess.
That's funny. It's funny that you mentioned Mac DeMarco because I know that we both dig Mac DeMarco, but I've never like from touring and like being in a DIY circuit, you meet a lot of bands that you can tell really like Mac DeMarco. They just wear it on their sleeve. But I've never thought that about you. Like I've never thought like, oh, Johnny's doing the Mac DeMarco thing and like, oh, Stevie B, super DeMarco vibes. It's just like, I don't know. I would have never even guessed that as one of your influences. So I find that interesting.
I think I was just really interested in the way that he worked and made records and I had like my like Focusrite Scarlett interface that we used. And I, since I was like 13 or 14, I'd like bought my first interface or like a Bluetooth microphone that we made the first NAF Noise thing with. And then it went to like a 2-channel interface and then a 6-channel interface and then one with 8 pre's. And we were like, oh my God, we can record drums with more than 2 mics. Oh my gosh. And then I think at that point I was like, I really want to start. I want to try recording the tape. And because of the whole Mac DeMarco thing, I think tape stuff and analog equipment had started to become a little more expensive, but it was still affordable for me. And I had saved up for a long time for it and decided like, okay, I'm going to do it. And now that machine, I could sell the same machine I bought for $600 for $3,000. Wow. And it's only been 3 years.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
That's insane, dude. Wow. I had no idea. I guess I can see that. I can see what you're saying about the process and just the spirit of the music, like his ideas on like how he creates, just from what I've seen of like the creative process, and I don't know, his personality when it comes to just like making art. I could see some correlation or inspiration there. I guess that does make sense.
I think a lot of it is just being inspired from working from limitations, like, because when you only have 8 tracks, you're like, okay, what's the most important? Or maybe you're bouncing down a bunch of tracks, like you have 4 or 5 drum mics and you only have 3 tracks left and you want more tracks, so you got to bounce down to 1 or 2. And it's like committing to things, I think it gave me that sort of ethic where when I record, especially my own parts, like vocals and or if I'm doing drums or guitars or whatever, I really like to commit to sounds. I really like to get it to sound inspiring at the very first stage, because if it's not, then it's just never going to be exciting for me.
Yeah.
So I think it was like healthy to start training me to just keep it moving and commit to things, you know. And that being said, like, especially when I was younger, I'm like pretty perfectionist about a lot of things, to my detriment a lot of the time. I was talking to Violet about this last night. It's like the whole Pavement thing, where I like, one of my favorite bands of all time is Pavement, and those songs are so special to me, and they are so messy. Like, they're played so messy. So I'm like, man, why can't I just have that attitude and hash it out like Pavement did? And I think in my heart I am, but it takes a while for my heart to take over my head and be like, it's okay. Like, you're going to fall in love with the messed up stuff later. You know, I'm getting better about it.
Yeah, right.
It's been a while.
And you know, I think they talk about falling in love with the messed up stuff in the Wilco documentary too.
Yeah,
in that Sam Jones documentary. I can't remember where, but I remember them being in the studio, one of them saying, like, you know, we'll fall in love with the parts that don't sound right now.
Yeah, they're mixing and they're like obsessing over this snare drum sound, and Leroy's like, you're not, like, we're not gonna notice that later. You're gonna, all the little messed up stuff is gonna be what makes it awesome.
Yeah,
Which
right.
is totally true. If you made everything sound like you expected it to, or like you thought other people expected it to, then it would sound like everything else. But
yeah, right.
if you just let the happy accident sit for a while, and you start to realize, like, oh, this feels unique and really good.
Totally. I feel like a lot of times when you're rehearsing for a gig or something, like, somebody will make a mistake, or they'll just like go for something, and then you see when everybody's eyes like get big and they're like, that was cool, and then you're like, okay,
Yeah.
let's try to actually learn this, or like, let's try to implement this, because that was crazy.
Those are the best moments. That's why playing in a band is so special to me, which I guess can come back around to your original question, which I've totally veered off from. But I don't think I ever wanted Future Crib to just be my thing. And I think for a little while it was, because I like made the record on my own, but because I was the only one that had that sort of free time.
Right.
And for the first year or year and a half of the band, of us playing shows, it would just kind of be like a rotating cast of characters, which I know that you're super familiar with. You've had like 100 different people in your band.
Yeah, right. Yeah, for sure. And I do remember those. I remember those days. I remember going to different Future Crib shows. Like, I remember at Two Boots Pizza watching Ben, who just walked by. Like, I'm pretty sure I remember him playing a guitar solo with his teeth.
Yeah.
And like playing behind his back. Like, there were just like all these different characters and different flavors to what y'all were doing back then. And it then somewhere along the way, it just seemed to like tighten up. It seemed like all of a sudden you had a core group that were ready to like make music with you, especially I guess Bryce and Julia, and I guess Noah. But I feel like Noah came around a little bit later, or like you were still finding out members, and then I remember you trying out different drummers for a little bit longer.
Yeah, it took a while to find a drummer that we were really comfortable with. And we played with a lot of really awesome people and good friends and great drummers, but there was something about, like, I had known Noah from hanging out because he grew up in Franklin, and I would go to shows down there at Kimbrough's or, you know, stuff like that. And I had known about him and seen him, and we had been friendly and stuff, but I never really hung out. And I was like, oh man, why don't I just ask him to come play? And the first practice we had with him, you just fall in love. It's awesome. It's like magic playing with him. And then we went on that tour in 2018 and in the summer, and it was me, Bryce, and Julia, and Noah. And I think after that, I was like, yeah, I want this to keep rolling. You know, this feels really good.
Yeah. And then now George is in the band too.
Yeah, because Noah was on tour with Briston last year when we were on tour together.
Yeah.
And we needed a drummer, and George had filled in a couple times before, and is just the sweetest dude ever and such a good hang. So we were like, oh, dude, can you come on tour? And it took like 3 months for him to get off of work. And he was like, I really want to, man. I'm working on getting off of work, man. Like, I'll let you know. And he finally did. And so we were stoked and had such a good time. And, after that, he came and played guitar at our release show. And Noah and I got home from that other Briston tour. And I think around Thanksgiving, we had like a band meeting. And we were like, this group of 5 people feels really good. Let's keep it moving. And everybody was really into the idea of that.
Yeah, when we were on tour together, it was kind of like he was filling in for Noah back. I mean, that was like July of last year, I think.
I think it was June.
June. And I mean, it was comfortable, but it was kind of just understood. But then, then he became a solid member. I think one defining moment for me, even though this is a little bit later, was March of this year, right when everything, that crazy night when y'all played at the Highwatt, right when the first case had come to Nashville and everyone's perspective was changing.
Yeah.
But I remember on that show, George, if I recall, was like switching around, playing a lot of different like instruments as the rest of the band. And it all made sense. It was like, here we have just this group of people who are all just like, just going to keep switching positions in this team and just making different moments, even just on stage right now. It was really cool.
Yeah, it really does feel like a team. It's great. And we all, none of us are attached to, I think the reason it feels so special to me is 1, because we're such good friends, and 2, because everybody like knows the power of a song, and like everybody just wants to serve the song and create moments where it's like we're listening to this record that we're making if we're rehearsing or playing a show or whatever. No one's like, oh, I'm going to play guitar because I'm the guitar player.
Right.
It's like, maybe I just need to play a shaker for this song, or maybe I'll jump over on the drum kit and Noah, you can get up and sing your song, and everybody's helping out the song, which is really important to me.
Yeah, totally. I'd say that definitely feels like something that y'all do really well. And I think it seems like everybody recognizes that it's really special. When you put out Beamish, which was in 2018, because I know when Friends came out, I remember that being, I mean, there's like different members are writing songs and singing. With Beamish, was there this band idea for that record or for that collection, or was that still solo Johnny with like other people? What was the process there?
Yeah, it was still the latter. I think like if Stevie B was in the time where it was just me and like the band hadn't played any shows yet, and Friends was when like we decided on that group of 4 people to be in the band and everybody's bringing in songs and working on the songs together. Then Beamish is that period in the middle where we were playing a lot of shows and having a lot of rotating characters. And I think that record is mostly me and my friend Andrew Selcha, who we used to live with, did a lot of overdubs, and Bryce did a couple overdubs. So it was like that in between sort of time. And then with Friends, it was the 4 of us, and with the new stuff, it's all 5 of us. And for the foreseeable future, it will be all 5 of us.
Yeah, Silverdays specifically is more you, Noah, and Bryce. Is that correct?
Yeah, I think we definitely like, that's the reason all 5 of us are on the cover, and like we want to make it a point that like Future Crib is these 5 people, like all of us play an equal role in putting this stuff across. But just circumstances didn't allow for us to all be together when we were recording Silverdays, and Noah and Bryce and I all lived together. At that time, Noah moved out because he got married. It's awesome. But since we were all just in the same house, like if we were free, we would record. And so the record ended up just being us 3 on it. But that didn't mean that Julie or George had any less of a role. Everybody was talking about it collaboratively and giving notes and ideas and stuff. It was just,
oh, really?
Yeah. We were just the ones that happened to be here to play the instruments and mix it. So.
Well, I'm glad I asked you that, because that is like a clarification, because I did know that it was the 3 of you, maybe more like, like recording it. But that's cool to hear that everybody was involved and everybody's like discussing it, and even in the ways that everybody could for this process, everybody's involved, but that involvement is maybe flexible or malleable depending upon the circumstances and the living situation, and especially it's the pandemic, like
Yeah.
sometimes
Yeah, it's awesome. I think yeah.
That's cool. So I guess that means that what's exciting about this to me is that means we haven't really heard, or there's like a even more collaborative Future Crib album probably on the horizon, that like all 5 of you are like even more involved in. Yes, is that correct?
Yeah, we have an idea for this record called Full Time Smile, and we've had all the songs for a long time, and like all the songs we were playing on that tour with you where George played drums are going to be on that record. And we really wanted all 5 of us to be a part of that record, just because I think those songs came to mean a lot to each other, and we like learned a lot about ourselves and each other, like in the process of touring on those songs. And for me, I don't really think that record could be made without everybody. It doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
So yeah, the reason we made Silverdays originally was to just have something to work on while we wait on that opportunity to get everybody together and do that record. But then Silverdays kind of became its own thing and felt pretty cohesive and exciting. We didn't expect that to happen. We just expected it to be, we have these other songs lying around that we don't want on Full Time Smile. Let's make an EP of stuff to be working on and give people to listen to while we wait to get together to record that.
Yeah. That's cool. So what's the status on music beyond that? Have y'all been able to record it all, or because of COVID, are y'all still waiting to get together?
Well, yes and no. Like we've just accumulated a lot of songs over the last few months, last 6 months ish. And just getting to the point to where like there's the new stuff, which is like Silverdays, just new to everybody else. And then there's the new, which is older than Silverdays to us. And then there's like another new thing after that. And then another new thing after that.
Wow.
Have like, so instead of just feeling all backed up like that, Bryce and Noah and I have started working on just like kind of like picking a song out of a hat every week and just trying to make a recording of it for all the stuff outside of Full Time Smile. But I think in December, no one will be in school. Everybody will be in Nashville, and we'll just live at my parents' house where we record a lot of stuff for a couple weeks and record that record together.
Sweet, dude. That's awesome. Do you feel like how has touring affected y'all? Like, I know it sucks on a basic level, but do you feel like you've been able to do other stuff that's been exciting and stayed fresh, or have you just missed it like crazy? Both, maybe.
Yeah, a combination of both. I think especially now, every day I miss it more, and I'll just like be driving home from my girlfriend's house at night and feel like I need to go to a Pilot gas station and get a cup of coffee and drive for 6 hours. It's like there's something like I don't know why I missed that. Like I miss driving in the middle of the night, but that like I have so many memories with you. It's like listening to Hissing Fauna.
Totally,
it's like
dude.
just you and me awake in the front and pushing through, stuff like that.
It's magic. It's magic in the midnight hour when it's just the open road and you're just like, all you've got are your dreams and you're just on this road, just getting to the next city. It feels so purposeful and so exciting and so dynamic in ways that are like tangible. I mean, you're literally driving down a road, but you're also like getting to somewhere and like your music is growing and you're making friends, and it's just like,
yeah,
it's everything you could ever dream of. To me, it's like I spent so much time saying how obvious it was that it was the only thing I'd want to do, to where now that it's gone, it's like, dang, I don't know. I spent so much time being like reaffirming myself that this is exactly what I wanted to do forever. And then it being gone, it's like, man, that was it. I don't know. It's hard to like. It's hard to fully not have it. I mean, maybe in some ways it's been cool to have a little bit more time at home, but it's out of control now.
I know. Yeah, I know how you're feeling, man. I'm itching really bad to
Totally.
just go but yeah, sometimes you do. I don't know. Maybe now, like you'll really never get tired of it. You know, like when
Right.
we're in our 60s and still touring, we'll be like, well, we remember when we were forced not to tour for a year, and that sucked. So we're never gonna take it for granted again. Like we're never gonna give into the exhaustion or the back pain.
Yeah, right. The back pain. Do you think you'll be touring when you're 60?
I hope so. It'd be awesome.
I think you will be, unless you decide not to. Do you when it comes to making music and it comes to your art, I'm curious, like, do you feel, is there like a certain stage or a certain goal or expectation when it comes to like how big your future crib gets? Like, is there I know that that's not a lot of what you think about, but I am curious, like, is there a stage that's too big, or do you feel like you're working to get to bigger stages, or are you just like, that's all, whatever happens, I'm just here to like make my art, and hopefully, but it's easier to say that, but then there's like, you do have to like make the post for Instagram and like
Right.
and you are trying, and everyone's trying to grow it. I guess I'm just curious what your relationship is when it comes to ideas like growing a project and in that sense.
Yeah. I think first and foremost, and like in my heart, I'm just making stuff because I have to and because I want to.
Right.
And I can say like, oh, I'm just gonna make this stuff and whatever happens. But at the same time, I want to do this for a living and I don't really want to do anything else. So I have to be realistic with myself in like thinking about those plans or thinking about those possibilities or different avenues but a lot of that is just like trusting the process, I think, for me. And because you know better than anybody that you get what you put into it. And a lot of DIY touring means a lot of new friends. And before Silverdays came out, I don't ever really like look at streams or anything, but just putting it up on the distribution and looking at the like artist insight pages or whatever, we just noticed like, oh, the Astronauts almost got 200,000 views, and all these other songs have these streams, and none of them have really gotten like any editorial attention or whatever. And
Yeah,
and
right.
all the people that started messaging us when we put out Silverdays are like, oh, like I met you on tour. 90% of the people I met you on tour, and you are ride or die for this, and that is so awesome. And it's not just like we played a show and gained a fan, we gained a friend, and that's really important. And I think the more that we can create and put out and be proud of and travel and just make connections with people, I think that goes so much further than like trying to make something trendy or trying to make something that you think people will like. You just have to, or at least for me, I feel like I have to make something that I feel really good about and feel proud of. And if I trust my own taste, then maybe someone similar to me or with similar feelings or tendencies to me, then they'll connect with it like I've connected with records that I love, and they'll want to have that friendship and they'll want to have that connection. And then that just, hopefully it can just grow from there to where I can make a comfortable living, to have a small house and be able to buy food.
Yeah, right.
And then tour.
Yeah. Totally. I think that's awesome. Yeah, that's a really good point. It's when you're doing everything yourself, like DIY, it is like an interesting relationship you have to find with the process and with all of the things beyond making the art. It's all, and I think every single person that I know, every single artist has a different relationship with it, and like where they want to put emphasis. You know, when it comes to understanding different platforms, and it comes to like how much time they want to put into like promotion. And I always just feel very baffled by that, because I'm like, on the one hand, I'm like, maybe sometimes like, man, I just need to focus on making good art. And then other times I see people working really hard, and I'm like, man, maybe they're working smart and I'm just like working not as smart.
Yeah, it's hard to know what is right, but maybe the right thing is different for everybody. Like,
yeah,
maybe for people like us who feel alive when we are like creating art, then that's more important than paying really close attention to the strategy sort of stuff, business related stuff. And that's, like, we live in a place where we are so fortunate to be able to have friends who are really good at that stuff and can help us out if we wish, like for that video we made, we never would have been able to do that ourselves, but Daniel Ship and the Orso Productions guys, we've been friends with for a while, and we're like, hey, will you help us? And they did, and it was awesome. It was a really fun process.
That is so cool. That video is amazing. So people can watch that on IGTV as well as YouTube.
Yeah.
And it's the whole Silverdays collection, just like played all the way through with this amazing video. Yeah, it is so cool. Who else helped out with it? Did Christina help out as well with it?
Yeah, I mean, she was there. We did like 2 days of filming, and she was there a bunch on the second day, just like helping with props and stuff like that. But
that's cool.
Yeah, it was fun. It was mostly just me, Julia, Bryson, Noah, and then Danny and Jack Serrato and Austin Collier shooting all the stuff, and then Giddy Nipper helped out with like props and helping it, like pulling the blanket up on us at the end, stuff like that. And our friend Caleb Berg, who lives in Chattanooga, helped out with the brainstorming and the pre-production sort of stuff. It all came together so quickly. Like I was astounded that we were able to get it done and edited in time for it to come out at the same time as the record, because the record was already slated to come out before we even decided to do the video.
Wow. Yeah.
So.
Wow. Yeah. That's an amazing turnaround. I didn't even know y'all had filmed this, and so it's a surprise to me. Y'all must have just done it pretty quickly. Like, that was amazing, and kept it pretty on the down low.
Yeah, well, it was an idea that we had for a little while, because we wanted to make like an art book to go along with it, since it's such a short little piece of music. We were like, oh, we could put crossword puzzles or like a Silverdays scavenger hunt and lyrics and explanations of the songs or interpretations and stuff.
That's
like
cool.
Collage. But we never ended up doing that. And we had talked about making a video for the whole thing and thought it would be a cool idea. But when it was just it was so hard to get everybody together, like on one Zoom call for a while, to actually flesh out the ideas and make a plan. But then I think one night Danny and Bryce were hanging out and started talking about it, and Danny was like, let's just do it. Like, forget about all the stuff that could go wrong or people who aren't here, and we'll just get it done. And like, George was in Chicago, but he filmed a bunch of stuff for that one sequence, and it was really special to have him in there too.
Yeah.
Because we didn't just want it to be the four of us and be like, oh, I thought George was in the band. It's whatever.
Yeah. That's cool. That's really awesome. That's really amazing. That's cool. Orso Productions, you say, is the one they helped out with it. They I mean, they came and filmed my set at Freeze Fest as well. It was really cool getting to meet some of them. And is Danny or Daniel Ship a part of that? A part of Orso as well?
No, he's just really good friends with them. And
who is that?
Okay. Yeah, Danny's just really good friends with them, and we've known them for a long time. We went to the same high school, and
cool.
They all did like media class together.
Yeah. I have a question for you. Do you feel like I have a Spotify question for you, or a streaming question. When it comes to the projects you're creating, like let's say Silverdays or specifically Beamish, do you get frustrated by the way that Spotify chooses to categorize your music? Like, would you prefer it to just be a like chronology of just like first I
like
made Stevie B, then I made Beamish, then I made Friends, but now right now it's like Beamish is like tucked away on like singles and EPs, whereas like Silverdays is considered an album, I think.
Right. Well, I think we were excited about that when we put it up, and it was 9 tracks and 13 minutes, and Spotify decided to make it like put it in the albums category, and we were like, well, that's where it deserves to be. Like, okay, there's Bryce. No, you good. Bryce. Now we've had 2 cameos of people who
for
are
real. But yeah, it's. I think it's gonna be listed as an album, but like, at least I personally wish that it was just all there. Like, and for my music too, I don't know. A lot of times I just wish that it could all just be there, or at least you could decide how to categorize it.
It'd be nice to have the option, because I feel like stuff in the EPs and singles category always gets overlooked, or at least when I go to listen to music, like albums are really important to me, and it takes me a while to discover I'm like, oh, all the EPs are like this other like ear candy around the albums, but when really like they could have had just as much time and energy and thought put into them as the albums.
Totally. Exactly. It seems like an unfair categorization. I don't know. That's I asked because Beamish is like hidden. It's the only one for some reason that's like down below. And I love that album. Also, I think with like Animal Collective, like Fall Be Kind just is like lost. I'm like,
dude,
I forget
Water
about
Curses.
Yeah,
Water Curses is like my favorite. So good.
I felt a little bit of like an Animal Collective nod at the end towards the end of y'all's video. I think it was when y'all were beating on drums and spinning around. I was getting some like psychedelic Anco vibes. I was like, man, it's coming.
I had recently started watching Oddsack. Do you know about that?
Yeah, for sure.
I haven't seen the whole thing yet, but just like reading about it and like how they made it and the process of it being super collaborative, and they weren't making a record for this movie, and they weren't making a movie to go with a record. It was like the most collaborative thing they could possibly get. We didn't really have that because we had already made the record and decided to make the video for it later. That was inspiring to me, and like the visuals and stuff, and the like slasher flick horror movie sort of imagery, and so we tried to like sprinkle a little bit of that sort of thing in there. Which made it really fun and interesting for us to mess around with it. And that movie and Christmas on Mars, which Wayne Coyne and the Flaming Lips guys made in Wayne Coyne's backyard, have been really inspiring to me, because it just made me realize like, oh, I can go to the dump and get a bunch of PVC pipe and tinfoil and make a movie in my backyard if I wanted to, you know. You don't need all this money or awesome production equipment, and the same could go for recording music. Like Grant Parker recorded No Fire on a little like Amazon cassette Walkman.
Yeah.
You know, and that song's awesome.
And it's more just popular like, too.
Yeah.
Like it did really well. It wasn't just like, oh, that's cute. It's like, wow, people really respond to this, you know?
Yeah, and that's great. And it's like the Minutemen jamming in Kano. They just used what they had, and I think they recorded double nickels on like $80 on an 8-track, you know? So that sort of stuff has always been really cool for me to be like, oh, I can do that, and no one can tell me that I can't, and it's going to turn out however it will. And as long as I'm happy with it, I don't care what anybody else thinks, you know?
Yeah, totally. And the reality is when you make something based off of with the resources you have, that art winds up a lot of the times being more relatable, and that relatability makes it more accessible and even well received in a greater sense. Like for an artist, it might just be genuinely all they have, or it's like their inclination, but then people are like, oh, I can make music like that too. Like, that's awesome that people can make music like that, because I have those resources as well. So.
Yeah, You're like,
That's
I got
great.
that stuff lying around. Why don't I try that? Like,
Yeah.
because I think there are a lot of people who think that there's only like one way to make a record. Like, oh, if I'm going to make a commercially viable record, I have to have demos. I have to get session musicians and a producer and an engineer. And that's a valid way of making a record, but it's not the
For
only
sure.
way. There's like infinite ways to go about it.
Yeah, and I think we as an artist community are always like reductive at first. We're like, oh, like all these rappers nowadays are just making music on Fruity Loops. Like, come on. But then it's like, or it's like, why is this popular? But then it's like, no, it's popular because it is able to be done by everybody, and it is good music, and it doesn't matter how it was recorded. If anything, that makes it even better because it's just so fresh and so. And I mean, I respond to art like that all the time. I always have. I mean, that's what I think growing up. You listen to a lot of indie rock. I listened to a lot of indie music, but it was more like a little bit later indie. I think, like you being in like Pavement and like J Mascis. I was into like the Shins and stuff like that. That like, but still had that idea where like you could play the guitar solo, you could learn it, and you can like, you felt like you could record the music at home on your Tascam, like.
Yeah, totally.
And that's what I wanted to listen to because I wanted to make it, and it felt like real people making real music, and it just connects with me,
You never forget that feeling, like you were saying, oh, I could learn that guitar solo. Then you sit down and you learn it, and you start to play the song, and like you feel like you're in that band.
Totally.
It's the best feeling ever.
I've always leaned more towards that than outrageously technical music, just personally. Maybe because I am a musician, and so I'm especially looking for that relatability. There are certain bands I like because they're just so insane at what they do. But in other ways, I like when that insanity or that amazement comes from things outside of like technical skill,
Yeah, totally. Yeah, and I went through a few like piano teachers when I was younger, and eventually settled on this guy Ernest, who I had from like age 11 to 15 or 16, and it became not so much like piano lessons, but more just like talking about music for an hour, or like showing me different chord voicings, or showing me like drum rudiments or guitar parts, or kind of any question I had. He was just there to help me learn what I wanted to learn, which was really important. And I remember listening to a lot of Dinosaur Jr. and J Mascis is a crazy guitar player. Like, he can kind of do it all. And I was like, man, I kind of want to play like that. Like I want to shred, And he was like, well, why don't you just start by singing your solos? Like, just try to sing as you play and make solos that you can sing. And that's been so important to me. Like, I think that's why I care about melody so much. And after that, I never wanted to shred anymore. I was like, I don't care about that. I just want to be able to sing my parts, and they can be super simple and have a lot more of a lasting effect than,
Yeah, right. Totally, dude. I think an album that changed my perspective on that was Stardust. You ever listen to Stardust by Willie Nelson much?
A little bit. My brother likes that record a lot.
Oh, it is so good. And but I would find myself after listening to it, I'd be singing the guitar solo every time, or singing the harmonica solo. And I was like, wow, how cool is that you can sing that? Like, and then there are bands who I love, and I love that I can't sing their solo. Like sometimes Wilco does crazy stuff, or like from Jeff's interest of television, I got really into Marquee Moon, and guitar playing on that album is just
it's crazy.
But even he sometimes, although it might be a little bit atonal, is doing, sometimes there are things that are not technically hard at all. Like I remember one solo, he's just literally going up a half step on the fretboard like every single time,
Yeah, he's a really interesting guitar player to me, because he is, you don't really notice that he's really good, but it's totally his own style. It's unique in that way.
Yeah,
where it'd be really hard to play one of his solos and sound like him, which is true for any great guitar player, I guess. But I think the way that I think I read an interview with him once where he was like, I'm not like practicing every day. I'm just trying to play what I hear in my head to the best of my ability. And that pushes me to get better because I'm hearing things that I won't be able to play. But then if I spend enough time with it, I can get it, which I think I do a lot and just don't think about.
Yeah. That sounds similar to a conversation I had one time with that guy, Jordan from Diarrhea Planet.
Yeah, Jordan Smith.
He I remember one time I met him at Lipscomb, which I know I've told you before. I met him like he was helping out with parking. And I just was just like, hey, I didn't even know who he was. Just like, hey, how's it going? And then he just was talking to me and my friends for a while. And he was like, yeah, I front this band called Diarrhea Planet. I was like, what on earth? Like, yeah, listen to y'all. But I remember him talking about how they have 3 guitar players. You're the big DP fan, but
at 4
guitar players, and just a lot of it coming from just a completely different perspective on what it means to play guitar. Even though they seem like they're shredding, and in some ways they are, it was a completely different mindset.
Yeah, there's a lot of interviews with them around the time their second record came out where they were saying when they first had 4 guitar players and were playing shows, everybody was playing over each other because it was just so loud and nobody was listening to each other, and they really had to learn each other's styles and how to it's like everyone had their own color in this palette, and they had to figure out how to make the most balanced picture instead of just it ended up brown at the end,
Yeah. Well, that's a cool idea. Imagine literally making a picture with crayons or paint or whatever it is, and every member of Future Crib only gets one color.
Yeah. Yeah.
It would be so interesting. Every time you did it, everybody would get a little bit more precise on what they want to do and know how to speak their language a little bit more.
Which is that's what being in a band is like. That's why a song starts the tour sounding one way and ends the tour sounding like a totally different song because everybody has latched on to each other's tendencies. And I feel like I've played long enough with at least Bryce and Noah and everybody, but I think I've played the most one-on-one with each of them, and I can kind of tell oh, you're going to do this next, or this is going to happen.
Yeah.
Picking up on certain things that they tend to do every time that just make them who they are as musicians. And it's really fun to be able to notice that stuff and to play with it and go back and forth with it.
Yeah, that is really special. That's so cool. With you and Bryce living together, but now like you said, Noah recently got married, for those who don't know, to Christina Coleman. So Noah and Christina now live together kind of really almost downtown. It's barely north of town, I guess.
Yeah, it's on the east side, but not really all the way over there.
Yeah.
So
yeah, it's on the fringe of the east side. But they live with Big Sma, which is awesome. And I got to talk to Big Sma recently. He was mentioning how he can walk to work. So I know he loves living with them, and he's just stoked to be over there.
Yeah.
With the band being a little bit more spread out, I'm curious what the next few months hold. You said talking about recording for a couple of months, and for a couple of weeks in December. What does the rest of this year look like for y'all?
I think we are focused on getting done with school and recording. Like I said, Bryce and Noah and I are going to be picking a song every week or 2 weeks and recording that. Just so later this year we can have all this stuff lying around that's finished and we can decide what to do with it later, instead of the other way. It's kind of 2 different processes going on at the same time. We have this record we're planning on recording. We're probably going to do that in December. And until then, we have all these songs that we're going to record and then decide what to do with them in January, Yeah.
Whatever. Wow. Okay, cool. I wish y'all the best with finishing up school. Are y'all juniors this year? And I guess subsequently seniors as well?
This is our
Is it your third year?
seventh semester. We're graduating a semester early, so 3.5 years.
Oh, okay. Wow, that's amazing. That's amazing that we're
Thanks.
able to do that while staying so on such a grind in every other capacity and like working jobs and making music and touring and playing an insane amount of shows with me as well.
Yeah, it's been good. I think it's like improved our work ethic and perspective on a lot of things. I think if I wouldn't have been pushed in that direction by my family and by the people who were able to, I've been very, lucky and fortunate that my family planned ahead for me going to school, and I got some scholarships and was able to go to school for like affordable price. So I probably would have dropped out like my freshman year if it wouldn't have been for that, especially if I was paying the premium, But
Yeah, right.
and then again, after I went to Briston, I really wanted to not go back.
I remember
But
that.
I'm glad that I stayed though, and it'll be, I will be able to say I had that experience and had done it, and I've learned a lot. I've learned a lot to my benefit, and I've learned a lot that I don't want to do, which is maybe equally as important. So
Yeah, right. Learning, kind of building a boundary or just like a personal thing where you're just like, I'm not going to venture further into that
yeah,
field, or, I don't want to spend my time doing that particularly. I think that's a lot of what it is to learn. Like, what you want to do is also learning what you don't want to do. I think a lot.
yeah, totally. And sometimes that's more valuable because you can get stuck into something that you end up hating and just be like, man, did I really waste all that time? Which
Yeah.
not always, but it definitely feels that way.
Yeah,
Sometimes.
totally. I appreciate you taking a little bit of time to talk to me this afternoon.
Yeah, dude. Thank you.
It's been really cool. I love getting to talk to you, and I miss you a lot. And I wish you the best. I hope I get to see you some, but finishing up school and stuff, I know that's going to be is just going to be a cool rest of the year and a big transition into 2021. So it's going to be an exciting few months to get to witness. And for anyone listening, if you haven't listened to Silverdays, you should give it a spin, and you should also check out the visual. Would you say a visual art book?
I think like a moving picture art, because we were going to call it visual art book, and we were like, wait, that is a little more broad than like it could be anything. Like a book could be a visual art book,
Right.
So.
Totally. They can give that. You can check that out at on Instagram on Future Crib's page, which is just at Future Crib, or on YouTube. You should definitely watch it. It's really good.
Thanks, man.
Yeah, dude. Anything else we should talk about? I think we about got it for a day. I want to have you back on sometime. I have a lot of other things I want to talk about, but in terms of like Silverdays and just the whole process of the band, I think we've told a really cool story today.
Cool. Yeah, I'd be happy to talk anytime, man. I remember my freshman year of college when you lived at outer space, and I came over like every day and maybe slept there like more than half the time that I was at my dorm.
Yes.
So I miss hanging out all the time.
One specific memory I have of that was when you were wanting to, I think you just ordered this like Jim O'Rourke.
Yeah, I just got Bad Time. I got
album.
a copy of Bad Timing, and I had waited to get the copy to listen to it. I didn't want to listen to it online or anything. And
yeah, that was awesome.
Listen to it on your couch. It flew my mind.
Dude, also, that Grant just got a space?
Yeah, I heard about that.
Dude, it's like outer space again. It is like the same floor plan. It's really weird.
Whoa, that's funny.
Yeah, I was over there last night. It's really cool. He's also got like behind Grant's room, like you think you've been to the whole house, and then one of Grant's closets, it looks like this door opens and it's this room, like this like big room where he's like has a studio. It's really
That's
cool.
funny. Bryce said to go over there and steal some microphones and no one was home, and he was like, yeah, you don't expect it to be back there, but it's funny.
Yeah. Yeah, it's pretty cool. I hope you get to check it out sometime soon. I love you.
Yeah, you too, man. Thank
Yeah,
you.
thanks for talking. I'll talk
Yeah.
again soon. Have a good rest of your day.
You too.
Peace out.